All right, good evening, call this,
Significant.
Webster workshop order. Our first order of business, I think I want to change this, will be a discussion on the insurance carrier changes. I guess you had a chance to look at them, and apparently this allied company that we've been with is no longer in existence, and it's now, or at least it became Zurich, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And it looks as if it is still, at least among the two carriers that are looked at here, it is the cheaper of the two, so. I think the one thing that impressed me a little bit with it is the amount of carriage, I guess you'd say, in the cyber area. The one company offered $100,000, and Allied only had $100,000 and nothing under the that second line was. So
Here, I'll give it to you.
they have $1 million in all two lines. So that looks
It's more extensive too, where it covers human error as well. So if someone makes an error, it covers us too.
Should bump that up.
In case Jake screws up.
Thank you.
Should be more than that.
I don't exactly see where that is.
That blows your current.
Sure.
I like, yeah.
If you lose one of your extremities in the office, you're covered.
He's not right.
You trip over the computer and lose your arm.
No, that'd be workers' comp.
Okay, next.
Yeah, all right, so it looks like we'll kind of agree to that.
Thank you.
Actually, you
Still
could go,
could have gone for
yeah, which is even worse, but that's it.
Eric
Right.
Argonaut.
That goes up even more.
Yeah. And then they didn't even list travelers because it was really high.
So are you're not asking for a motion, right? Just a discussion.
Thank
Now,
you.
when does that change?
I think it goes into effect, they said they need it, I think it's like September 15th or something, yeah. They had sent us a couple letters like a month ago saying that they just found out Allied was, so they put it out to bid, they contacted Jake and I, and said that they would be hearing from us, and I just met with them Friday, Wednesday, and that was what the best option was.
So Allied became Zurich,
Yeah.
and then they redid.
Well, they went out to bid first, just because they didn't know what to expect, like what the new company was going to be. And it turned out that it was the best of the options.
Okay. Peter, do you want us to discuss this proposal?
If you want to, but I didn't want to put you on the spot either, so
Giving it to us to look at.
we can,
You sent it to Jake and I.
yeah, because I only gave it to Jerry and Jake and called Jerry and he said, yep, go ahead and give it to the rest of the board, so I did. Missy and I talked about it at the last Parks meeting and she was good with it, so I think that's why, seeing that both of us were in agreement, I thought like it would be a good time to do that. So I don't know if you just want to take a quick look at it and we can discuss it at one of the other village board meetings or however you want to play that, but like I said, it's the thing to keep in mind is if you want to get more information, you can actually Google other communities that to do this to see how they've reacted to it and what their residents do with it. It seems to be a fairly popular program many places, so, but, so.
A lot of the roofs are on Sanford.
Yeah, there's some on Sanford, and Jake and I have talked, there's some on Sanford, there's a few on Dunning.
Yeah.
The original program, like it said there, like you see at the bottom there, we're talking about this anyways, but on the bottom of the sheet, there's a, those actually shows you, and it was done in 2004 and 2005. Bill Ruoff, you probably all know, has got some relationship with the Rotary, and so he had the Rotary work with the village at the time to sponsor the plaque. So this would be sort of the next step where the village would kind of take this over, but like I said in the first number one there, because I knew the first thing you'd ask about was how much it cost. The idea would be to set a fee that would float depending on the year if necessary, if the prices went up, that would cover the cost of the plaque and help to offset some of the cost of the trees, and which would be good for our budget. And so then that would, so, but again, it would be a way for people to come out. So it's sort of like everybody wins. The village wins a little bit here, and the residents win. And if you remember, our comprehensive plan talks about having a walkable village, and this allows people, when they walk, to actually see something else when they're walking.
Yeah, I like the plan.
Peter, how big are they?
I think they were 4 by 6-ish. Is that right, Jake?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah, like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's about what the county does, so that it's not like huge.
Right. It's not really huge, but it's not real small. I mean, you'll see in there the specs I did on the lines actually comes from the online bid for this thing, where you type it and it tells you what you can do and what you can't. So that's how I got those specs. Obviously, if we got them from a different supplier, it might change the number of lines or letters, but
And where do these plaques get installed on the ground next to the tree?
They do get installed next to the tree, but Jake and I also talked about, would it be probably between the tree and the sidewalk you were talking about, right? Something like that, within the village's right away?
Yeah, it makes sense, because, no one's gonna drive down the road and read.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
When they're walking, yeah.
Makes
And what does
sense.
it do for you? Are you expecting people clear free of snow? Does this thing shit on you, like when we got snow?
They'll get piled up, we try to avoid the grass area, it's not always successful, but, with the sidewalk plow, so we certainly wanna leave it far enough back that it doesn't get pushed over,
Right.
or worst case scenario, get rolled over into the sidewalk and then get caught up in the snow blower, that would not be
Right.
helpful.
In other communities, they do pile snow on top of them. I've seen that, but,
Yeah, I just sort of his perspective when it comes to any one maintenance. or
I've seen
whatever.
ones that are about this, they do them about this big at the county, and they just put it over the tree, so that there isn't any maintenance or
Over the
anything.
tree.
Yeah, they just kind of put it on the tree. You go around Highland Park, they're all just sitting there.
that's possible too. I mean, this is a pedestal type design, but that's
It's
another,
just like a little plastic
But I
thing.
like that.
that's another possibility.
And,
Look at Oak Hill.
I have,
Oak Hill, it sounds.
So maybe what I'll do, if you don't mind, is you've got a proposal, but I will do a little follow-up with Larry Staub, who's the Parks Director, who I know a little bit, and I will ask him a little bit more information about the county's program and see if it's something we could
because then
look
they're
at.
cheap and you don't have to worry about ruining them. And
Right.
then people
I
can donate a
bet.
tree about their family and they can,
Yeah,
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, I could,
Just don't tell me no Heather. or
when we
anything.
do the really,
Just what?
I would say that
He
he's
knows
been
we're
there
friends.
forever, so. The park, it's an interesting question. If you attach it to the tree, what happens when it grows?
they'll grow around it, I think, and make it very expensive to chip up, and there's a piece of metal in it.
Well, let me check with
I
Dave.
would just ask Mark.
Yeah.
Invest in there.
Yeah.
I like it on a tree.
So we'll do is I'll check with the county, then when we take this up the next time, I'll have some answers for you there, so.
Going around, I think.
I don't think the.
I don't think that's a big deal.
No.
So, I don't know how to-
Most municipalities do use the
You're right,
pedestals,
it does
but
grow.
it doesn't matter.
I mean, in reality, you put the pedestal next to the tree, so it's not necessarily right in front of it.
Right.
And then it's in line with the tree, and it's
Yeah.
not
Right.
gonna be in the way if there's a real narrow tree lawn.
Right,
One thing's for sure, we do avoid the trees with the sidewalk plow so far. So,
yes, exactly.
You know, if it's in line with it, won't be a problem.
That's a good point.
So,
Yeah.
Could also offer an option if someone didn't have a lot of money, and maybe they just wanted to do something small, they could
Yeah,
do a
Yeah.
couple different types.
yeah.
I like that.
Just carve their
Yeah.
name on
Yeah.
Or that,
Yeah, the cheapest route, just carve in the tree.
a heart rate in the tree.
So, well, anyway, so maybe the end of the month, we could take a look at that at the meeting and see what you guys think and more formalize your opinions, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Very good, thank you, sir.
You're welcome, thank you.
Okay. Discussion on current business. Suppose that the current business would be somewhat a discussion on where we are regarding the sewer and what we would like to do moving forward.
I was gonna kinda send an email today, and then I didn't get to it. I was gonna ask the board, so what happened since the last meeting? Because everyone voted to create a committee. I wanna see if anybody did anything. Has anyone figured out what the criteria of the committee would be, the timelines for committee, who would be on a committee? Because as Don referred to down at the end, well, it looks like the next step was to create a committee. You know, that the next step in their process was, if you were going joint, is to create a committee that works for both parties to work through the stuff.
I think.
If you're gonna create a committee before the committee, what is that committee gonna do? Because you have all the information from 2 engineers, you have information from Jake, we have information, and what was presented was worst-case scenario. So you're not gonna be able to work through a lot of stuff, because you don't know those what-ifs yet, either way you go.
Yeah.
So I'm 100% in favor of a committee.
You
But
are?
it has to, yeah, but it has to make sense to when the committee goes. What is this
Exactly.
committee, this pre-committee, what are they gonna do? Because I don't know what they're gonna do. So I'm asking the board,
That's why.
and I stood up here and voted yes to it as well, but what
Yeah.
are they gonna do? We already have the information. They both sat up there and told us that they worked on this together, and here's the information.
Well, I'd like to hear what the residents have to say. That's why I wanted a committee, and I didn't care if we had 2 or 4 residents, 2 of us, 2 of the town. I talked to people like Barry Howard, Bill Horth, and they said that they would love to come to a committee meeting and discuss this.
Well, having an open discussion would be called a
No.
committee meeting. You're talking about 2 different things. A committee would be a team that is assembled to work through this process. Just having a discussion about it is not.
Then I'd like to have intelligent people on it.
Yeah, I'm not arguing about who's on it, Jude. I understand you want people that will be invested in it, also people that are neutral party.
Exactly,
That can
and
look at
that's
it
what we don't
from
seem to
every
have a
which
lot of.
way and end. But
Right.
what I'm asking of the board is, what is this pre-committee supposedly doing that people decided to vote on? Because I don't understand what we'd be doing. Informational meeting is different.
You have to be
There was no
You have to be
here
really-
informational.
Huh?
really careful on who joins this committee.
Well, the information was presented by
Very, very
2
careful.
engineers.
I know, but there was very few people. The people that were in that audience were for the town. There was 1 person in that audience that was from the village,
Okay, well, I understand that, but I don't.
and they didn't know about it.
I don't agree with that, but there's people that spoke on behalf of both ways. But again, I just want to clarify what we're talking about. Are we talking about having another informational meeting, or are we talking about, I mean, there are clear differences between a committee and sharing information to the public. And what are you going to share to the public? You just share
What
the
would they-
worst case scenario.
Okay,
If
what
we
would the
stood on our
committee
own.
do before we make the decision?
Correct, that's what we have to decide.
Oh, that's what
Right, I'm not, as I think back and understand how the plan was
Mhm.
working with the town, their next step was to get the village to move forward with their own committee to see what else they're gonna do. It was if you guys partner, then a committee is created, that was their next step. If we're gonna stay on our own or want more information, what is this committee gonna do? So you wanna join the committee, the town's not gonna join this pre-committee, why would they join a pre-committee? They already have the information,
They
you
don't
understand
have
what
to
I'm saying?
look at, yeah.
Was this committee to advise the village board on?
In my mind, a committee,
Considering all the information that's been,
Yeah, and people that have the wherewithal that live in the village, if we could get a few of them to dissect some of this information again too.
I don't agree.
yeah, I'm missing something, Jude.
I know nobody
Having-
wants to.
You put a committee together, you have to be very careful on who's on it, because you're gonna have biased people on both sides. You might have, it depends on how many people you're gonna have on it, where they're from, and, there's too many ifs in that kind of a thing, where the thing to do rather than a committee, I've been on so many committees, all that comes out of a committee is gibberish.
Well, you
It's
have to
all
set
biased.
clear expectations
for it.
before you
I
put a
am not
committee
for it.
together to establish what is the goal supposed to be of this committee, right? So if we're talking about a pre-committee to making a decision, this board would have to clearly decide, what are we trying to get? Because we paid for two engineers, Clemston at the podium, working just for the village.
I know, and
And
that's all the
agreed with
numbers.
what the other engineer said, and said, this is what we have. This is the best case scenario. It doesn't, yes, we have the zero hardship if we're the village, but can we have a 40% grant to consolidate some stuff as municipalities and government?
And are we
Cuomo wants
gonna
to do.
have the same services? What are we going to have?
Right,
We
but now
don't
again,
have
you're
it
getting down
because-
to my page. You don't know that till you sit down and say, okay, we're gonna go in this direction. Now committees
No,
will come
no,
together.
no, no, they can tell us, don't you tell me
Jude,
that.
you can't do that because you
Oh,
don't know,
they can't.
we don't know all the answers on either side.
But that's what, remember the meeting that we were in, and Art, even that he was there, and he said, oh, I thought it was already decided. That first meeting that we had.
Yeah.
Art thought that it was already decided that we were gonna be together, and that's what he was there for.
Yeah, no.
No, well, but that's
I
the town
get that.
side. I hate having sides,
All right, well, then.
but I'm sick of
I
this.
understand. There's no about sides, it's about.
Oh,
Jude, we've have the information. This board has to make a
you
decision.
have the dollars and cents, and I don't see where it is so hugely different.
It isn't hugely different, you're correct. So the point is, if you decide, whatever direction you decide to go, if you decide that this board wants to go joint, then until you sign the municipal agreement, sign the dotted line, it's just like negotiating the union contract. You sit in that room and you go
Oh,
back
no,
and
I bet you
forth until we meet on certain things, we may be far apart. But this board would have to decide, what are the top 10 things, what are the top 5 things we want to execute? We want to offer camera services to our residents, we want to do this. And you stay strong on those issues until you get what you want, it's going to be give and take. That's what you would do when you decide to move forward with a
Right,
joint
you're
project. If we're
saying-
doing it, if you want to do a
Right.
pre-committee, what are you doing? I still don't have an answer to that.
But if we turned around and joined them, and we don't have any of this stuff discussed, how do we know? They're gonna say no. No, we don't wanna do that. No, we don't
All
wanna
right, so
do
you're
that.
talking
No,
about
we're not
stuff
gonna
you
take
want,
this.
that would not be an informational meeting
it's- No.
with people either, that would be this board working with Jake to say, hey, if we chose to go this route, what do we need to do? What do we need to think about? What do we want?
I think he
Out
talked
of
a lot about what
We do, exactly, and I think we
But-
know,
It's not, to me, it is not just dollars and cents.
Jude, I agree, it's everything. It's everything
And
from
that's all
top to
that
bottom.
But that's all
now
we're
and
talking
20
about
years
is
from
what
now, and
the
30 years.
engineers stated, and it was money.
Agreed, but again, you're talking about what's gonna happen with the plowing and all that. That's not an informational meeting with the residents, I hate to tell you. That's this board making those decisions with Jake's support on what we would need to do, how we accomplish it. So you're saying two different things. You're like, well, we gotta get the residents in here. You're not gonna tell the residents, how do we get the snow plowing done? That's not what the residents are for.
But if it's
No.
gonna, in fairness, if it's gonna impact the snow plowing schedule and the leaf pickup schedule and all sorts of regular services that we provide, and if those people aren't available to pull from,
Yeah.
Right, but you're not gonna know that. You don't know that now, that's what I'm saying.
well,
You're
you're
not
gonna have
know.
to
Well,
raise,
you certainly will.
you'd have to raise the taxes or somehow come up with more people to be able to be available.
Well, right, but we don't know that. We don't know how we can reorganize things. We don't know those answers, that's all I'm saying.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
there's way too much, you just don't know them all yet. You just don't know
But
how
we
it's
don't
going to.
have, we wouldn't have,
But that's not an informational, Jake's saying it could affect taxes, and he's right, but you don't know that now, so what are you gonna say you're gonna have a meeting to say, hey, we may raise the taxes because we don't know how to snowplow now? No.
no, you're not even listening to what he's saying, Jesus. No,
No, I understand it might affect, but it wouldn't affect it necessarily greatly. Might affect it with one person, I don't know how often those guys are used.
there's a considerable amount of time when, our highway guys
You might lose
try to plow
one.
the majority, of the time, but when they've been here for 16 hours, we're here for safety. If they've been here
Exactly.
plowing for
You can't
16 hours,
do that.
and we
Well,
have
I've never
a,
known snow for 16 hours, but.
It's not just that, it's
Well, that's
somebody
different,
that
there's cleaning
has,
up, there's so, that could happen,
That could.
that's realistic, but.
but I mean, even when somebody has a sewer issue, can we turn around and tell them, our guys are there in an hour, less than an hour? Are they gonna have the same service? Those are the kinds of things I'm looking at.
Right. And
It's
again,
not just
I
the
think
money.
that's agreed, but then we can sit here and talk about what you want, but if you
Well-
decide to go joint, those are the things you have to work out through the process. Do you make
Well,
their
you don't
guys?
go joint first and then work it out.
Yeah, when there's mergers, that's how, I hate to tell you, that's really how it works.
I've been so.
Okay,
yes.
well, you're gonna negotiate and not sign or settle until you get what you want. You go back and forth.
Oh, then you
There's
can
gonna
turn
be
around and
wins
say,
and
never mind, we're
losses.
gonna take our.
No, when you
sewer back.
decide to go joint, you
That's
stay
what I-
joint, but you work.
exactly.
Well, Jude,
And then you can lose, big time.
it's
Are you just talking about the personnel issue?
No,
Is that what you're
not
talking?
just, no, not just.
Because-
no.
The personnel issue is, what, 3 guys down there?
Mhm.
Okay. 2 are licensed,
all three are licensed.
all 3 are level 3, right?
Yeah, grade 3
And
operators.
if they're absorbed by the town, they're level 4.
There's a grade 4 plan, yeah.
And so our guys would have to go through level 4 school in order to be where they are here.
They'd have to have, yeah, they'd have to have time operating a grade 4 planner, one that scored the same, be able to get a
So-
license.
If your consideration is for the guys, and, that's something we should all think about, is what's gonna happen to them. Somebody's still gotta operate the headway. What does that take?
it depends.
No, I'm
It's
just-
got about 4 hours.
We're still-
Yeah,
But you also have to have, for us, you'll have to have somebody who will be able to, and I suppose a number of people could do that, the sewer system. And that's all.
there's a backup, as the town gonna react as fast as,
That's what I just,
That would be,
oh, because we're the collection.
unless, yes, unless they,
So again, I don't wanna reopen up discussion whether we should or we shouldn't. It's just if we voted in public, as you said, that we're gonna put a committee together. So this board tends to sit on things, just like we had all the information for 7 months, and we
well,
just
we
sit on it.
didn't know we
Well, I'm
had it
just
for
saying.
7 months.
Right, so now what happens here? I'm sure Al hasn't started anything, I'm assuming we haven't started anything on this end, or do we?
I was sick all week, so there was nothing I was doing. I talked to
But where does it go from
Barry
here?
Howard.
That's all I'm saying, is where does it go from here?
If I can, doesn't the fact that
Yeah.
there's so many questions out there, that might be a good place to start before there's a decision to go joint and then
Mhm.
negotiate afterwards, to develop a list of questions, now that you have all the information.
this is
All the
my-
information's never all the information. But if you get a good chunk of information, then you can develop a list of questions, things that you would need the answers to, or a
Before.
pretty good idea before you decide, because if you, like, I have no say, I guess, but like Judy said, if you decide you're gonna go joint and then start negotiating, you've already decided, if you can't go back, that kind of ties your hands during the negotiation somewhat, because
Right,
there's
so
no.
you can create a list, Jake,
Yeah.
and decide to go joint, you still gotta work through that list,
Right.
doesn't mean that town's.
Well, then why
No, I'm
don't
saying
we
you
do
can
that?
have the answers to that questions ahead of time, but if you say, hey, we're gonna go joint with the town, and then we're gonna negotiate it, but we can't reverse our decision to go joint, you have 0 negotiating power,
There's
because
nothing.
if you're switching no matter what, you're switching no matter what, and.
Right, there's
we're-
still gotta be a signature and an agreement at some
Right,
point.
but
That
there's,
doesn't-
but if you.
So there'll be wins and losses for each team.
Right, but if you said that there's no way you're not gonna sign it, because once you say you're going joint, you're gonna go joint, then I don't know how you negotiate with,
You don't.
from that position,
You-
you know? I mean, I get what you're saying, that's how.
Because you
mergers-
can't negotiate on the unknown, so you guys,
Right.
and I'm okay, you guys are, you're here, vote that way, do it, put a committee together.
You can
work
ask
through
the
those
town ahead of
things.
time too, and say, hey, how's
And
this
see
gonna
where
work,
it
how's
goes.
this gonna work, how's this gonna work?
It'll
I
go
know.
on for 6 years.
Well, better than a committee, maybe we should just send out a mailer and get the village's input.
Again,
They
you
can't-
guys are saying 2 different things.
No.
Village's
We can
input
give
is
them
not supporting what the Jake and Jude are saying. They're saying we have unknown questions around what we're gonna do or what services we can provide to our residents. So I think it's just, this board has to come up with that information. It's not the residents.
And that would be fine.
It's not whatever, but I'm just saying, the reason of this wasn't to discuss it back and forth, it was to bring up a point that we voted in front of the public and on Facebook and Peter's camera, that we were gonna put a committee together. So I'm just asking, how's that going? And I'll probably ask this next meeting, how's it going? I'll be in the same spot, and that's my opinion.
Could it be a fact-finding committee or advisory committee rather than a steering committee? Because the steering
I like
committee is
that.
steering you towards something.
Yeah.
You're saying, hey, the board members who have to ultimately make this decision could submit questions to this committee
Right.
and say, how is this gonna work out? Some of it's gonna be pre-negotiating with the town. If we do this, what'll
This is-
happen here? If this,
Exactly,
what'll
and
happen
that's
here?
what I
And
want.
then, there's no surprises when it comes to negotiating or having the conversations, because you know. And if there's hot button things that might be, this is very, very important to us, here's, like you said, your top 10 things. These are very important, must-haves, and they can't provide those 10 things.
Well,
Then
guess
it kind of
what?
makes a decision for you.
Right, and so the town has expressed to us that we don't know, we don't even have the answers to some of your questions until we know which way we're going, how things are gonna be, and that,
Well-
and they suggested the committee to help present to both boards these decisions. So we can put lists together, that's great.
See, I mean,
Put a list together, and then what do we do with that list? You wanna say to the town, before we go joint, you need to do all these things on the list?
No, they
Because that's
did
not
not,
gonna work either.
here, go, no. We gave them 6, remember?
6 from this board, yes.
Yes. And what did we get back? Because I've still not seen it.
Yes, I've talked to every single one of you via phone about.
You have talked, I have not seen anything in writing that they
There's not gonna
said.
be in writing, there's no agreement yet, I mean, what, you,
No, then I haven't seen it. You
Jude,
can,
there's nothing to see, there was, whatever those things were, I called you after meeting.
and you said, yeah, they were gonna take the debt, but they
Yeah,
were gonna do it.
they're not taking the
And I'm
debt.
going, well, I couldn't remember them all because I didn't have them all written down.
Yeah, they're not taking the debt, they're taking, they said they
Well, what were,
would take the
let's go back
employees.
to them, what were they?
Oh, shit, I don't remember offhand, the debt was one of them.
Employees? Yeah, I remember
which
that.
obviously they said they would, be willing to take them on.
we need them.
We're going to need, I know.
How
I know.
can we be ready to make a decision when we have zero concept of what our needs are gonna be if there's a merger or there's a joint project? We have 3 pump stations and about a few hundred miles of sewer pipes and 300 manholes that we would need people to operate and run, and when a pump station goes offline, you've got a pretty short period of time before sewage starts backing up into somebody's house. We can't get rid of all our employees and just say, oh, somebody will have to figure out how to do it. There's institutional knowledge that's important, and that service to our residents that's important, and if it's saving $4, double mine, and I'll pay extra to have that service and knowledge that somebody knows what they're doing and how to operate this system here I mean, it's way cheaper than anywhere else in Monroe County to start
So
with.
I agree,
Exactly.
but those are
But-
things we
but how
have
can
to
we
have
make-
answers
but-
to.
but
They
we're-
can do it, we
Right.
can do it, we don't know that, that's what I'm
Right,
saying. There are
but we gotta
unknowns.
I think we gotta know these, I mean, just from our customers, I'm, advocating for our customers. One of the pumps, the areas that are served by a pump station, has a pump station go down, it holds a couple thousand gallons.
Right.
And if it's at a busy time of the day, if it's at
That's it.
midnight, okay, we got some time.
Yeah.
If it's at 6 o'clock at night,
So those are perfect questions
Yeah.
that we need to ask, so we don't have the employees who's doing it, are you responding to those emergencies, those are questions you ask, that's what we
Yeah.
need to know.
no, I'd say that we'd have to have some,
And we have to have bodies, right, to be able to do that.
yeah, you'd have to have
My
people.
question to you is, how many do you need?
I
How
would-
many respond to pump problem?
If there's a pump station, there's usually, a guy will go check out the pump station, see if he can get it fired up, we'll go get the VACCON truck that we still need obviously for part of the collection system, and pump that down while somebody else is there trying to get the thing fired back up. Because now you're pumping it out, you're taking what you can with the VACCON, taking it down, dumping it, bringing it back up, and keep continually pumping it. If it's a power outage thing, you got a guy with a generator going around from pump station to pump station, rotating around, pumping, there's one of them that has a backup generator, two of them do not, so you're going around pumping back and forth between the other two, so we can either pump, or you got one running that there's high flow in the back on, it's going back and forth, and taking that back down to the sewage treatment plant.
So that would be 2?
I would say if you had collection system, only a minimum of 2 people per collection system. Yeah. What's that? We have 3 guys down there at the sewer plant right now, full-time, and 1 guy that has been working on his license, because we try to plan village, there's a couple guys that have a lot of time in grade there, or time in service, so we kind of plan for when they retire, that we have someone else that's licensed and ready to go when it's there. I'm pointing fingers, there's another sewage treatment plant in town right now that hasn't got an operator.
Exactly. They need ours.
Right, well, no, but ours can't run that plant,
I know.
so,
I know.
but right now, they don't have an operator, they had one, and then he retired, worked part-time for a while, he couldn't do any more, they had another full-time guy, but then I think he went back to the county, so. That's what we try to avoid, we try to plan,
Yeah,
you know, and it costs you guys some money, it costs our residents some money, but we did that with our water department, we knew that there were guys getting close to retirement or eligible to retirement, so we had Jason in there getting up to speed, and he was a great operator before, you know, and that's what we're trying to do with Dan too, with this.
If all we had was the collection service, we would only really need 2, right?
What's that?
If all we had was the collection service,
Yeah.
we didn't have to operate a plant,
Mhm.
we would really only need 2.
I suspect, I suspect if that plant was part of the regional, the headworks was part of the regional, nothing to do with us, we'd still have water and electric down there and the building maintenance, because we'd have to store our back on that we would need. But as far as personnel, I always assume 2 would probably cover what we need for the collection system part. Because, you know, the DPW, the highway works with, you know, if they had a sewer line installation or a break or something with storm, we work together and we're, you know, doing installs or doing repairs and vice versa. We're up doing leaves. If they've got opportunity, they can send somebody up to help do the leaves when we're
we lost so much
busy weeks.
with the cons.
Well, that's the funniest part, the
And-
stinkiest part of the plant's still gonna be there. The
Right,
headworks is where all the
well,
raw stuff
exactly.
comes in. You know,
Which is, and exactly, so then maybe they can sue us again for that.
well, in our
But
plant,
we lost revenue, we lost huge amounts of revenue because of that, not just the lawsuit.
well, I think there was a decision to get rid of composting that cost us, now we have to do sludge disposal, we're working with Ontario on
I
sludge.
know.
To hopefully cut those.
Yeah, we could beat that to death. It's a loss, you know, it is what it is, that's not.
But we,
No, I'm
no,
saying
you
how
can
we're-
make it
that's
better.
impacting our budget and how
Yes,
I'm trying to work
exactly.
with Ontario to make it better, so it's not as big of an impact on our budget.
And finding somebody that will let us use their land for composting, I mean, there are ways to do it and get money. But
So
nobody wants
anyways,
to look at that
if
at
we
all.
could just, and, like, this could go on for days. So again, my question is, do we want to go back to taking that committee thing offline? Because I don't think we're gonna create a pre-committee, because nobody knows what it would do, what the criteria is.
I don't think we should have a committee.
And change it to working, even if it's another workshop session, working through these things that Jake's bringing up. And so we have a list, and that we're prepared to get answers for those questions. I don't think any other ways, I don't think having residents in here when we don't even know is gonna help anything in my.
I agree with you. I don't think we need a committee. I think that this decision needs to be made by this board, because we have the knowledge, we have the numbers, we've heard it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's time, within the next month or 2, to make that decision.
What do you do until then?
Well, a committee's only gonna take it out another year. Only take it out another year.
understand the urgency.
All right, I can, you know, I
No,
mean,
seriously, but I don't understand the urgency that we have to do something like immediately.
Well, they're moving forward.
Exactly,
And if
so
we
why,
don't jump in later on, we don't do that. It's not gonna happen.
that's the window. that we have.
is what? If they're gonna move forward, and if we don't go with them right now, then we're
And
dead.
I think that's gonna cost us more money if we don't do that.
I don't, how? Tell me
Months
how.
ago, I sent an email to the board requesting questions,
Mm-hmm,
and I got very few back, but
Yeah.
we seem to be content on not knowing stuff and confident in their decisions, because engineers that were paid by somebody to come up with something, came up with something. It's, we just said, how do we expect the residents to know when we don't even know ourselves?
exactly.
But we're all set to make a decision when we admittedly don't know.
Yep.
It boggles my mind. It absolutely boggles my mind that that's how that can happen. How we can say we don't know, but we want to make a decision. We need to make it in 2 months. We need to make it now. We've delayed this for 7 months or 10 weeks or 2 minutes. But if we don't know, if no one's asked, and these are great questions that all of you are bringing up,
Mhm.
you need to find out the answer to them before you're working for our
That's all I
residents
want.
and making something that's gonna cost them more and provide them less service.
We're way outnumbered, Jake.
Shoot, it's not about being outnumbered, it's
Oh,
about,
yeah, it is.
no, it's not, it's about sticking a firecracker. Right, you know, so Jake did send out emails. I did get information that I needed from Jake and what I thought I needed from Jake. I reached out to the engineers and I spoke to the engineers to get more information. Am I gonna be completely honest and say that there's some things that I didn't think of that Jake has recently brought up? Absolutely. You know, but again, I'm not disagreeing with Jake or with you or anyone, I'm just saying, I wanna know what this pre-committee is gonna be for. I just don't think it makes sense at this time. I think this board, working with Jake, should get all the questions and concerns together and then look through them and discuss them and then go from there. I just don't know what a committee's gonna do. And when Jake and I said we don't, what I meant to say is we don't have all the answers to those, so how are we gonna give that to the residents? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not because you brought some up the last meeting that
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking of, so that's what I'm talking about. Let's understand what those are, talk about them, but I don't think it's a committee-driven thing at this point, in my opinion. If you guys think different, I'm only one person on the board,
I
so
agree with Jerry.
you guys
The
can,
committee is just going to, I don't know what they're going to necessarily bring into it.
right, and I'm even okay with the committee if someone told me what is their goal, what is their role, what are they gonna look into, what are they gonna provide, what's the timeline, who's gonna be on it?
I know
Because if it
what
turns
they're
into
gonna
certain
do.
people, it is gonna go on forever, it's gonna be arguments, it's gonna be back and forth, and that doesn't
Who
help
do you
anybody.
have that would be experts, Jake?
It doesn't help anybody.
Well, I think it's, you know, you guys, what Jerry just brought up, you guys define all of that. You define the timeline, you create the mission statement for the committee and what the
Right.
goals are. You would create the makeup of it. You could say, you know, we want two people that represent businesses and commercial users.
Yeah,
You know, I'm sure someone on Xerox, they have a humongous interest in your decision. I'm sure they'd be very interested in
I
being
think
involved
so.
in it and being on the committee. There's, you know, maybe a couple residents, you can do it generically. All right, we have a couple residences, or a couple of residents, we have a couple of business people, we have one
Mhm.
from the industrial world, it's a couple of board members, and things like that. If it's an advisory committee to the board to look at it and brainstorm some of these unknowns, and, well, not unknowns, I guess, but unidentified things.
yeah.
Because everything is interdependent, especially when you're in a smaller organization like we are. You know, sewer, it was all within Department of Public Works, and sewer and highway work together, and so you don't always see, hey, how did sewer get that done, or how did highway get that done? Well, because we had the sewer guys are helping us, or they had you know, the highway guys are helping them. So a lot of those things, and it's not a big deal, I get, but if that sidewalk on South Avenue is not plowed before the kids gotta walk the spray, I get phone calls real early in the
Yes,
morning,
yes,
you know? And if it's delayed that little bit,
yeah.
and that's what people feel like they wanna.
That's why they live in the
value.
village.
And that's what we
I
pride
know.
ourselves on, providing those services, and that's the benefit, you know, the brush pickup and everything that we, you know, everything we do. So, but yeah, there's a lot of things that can be kind of hashed out and either hopefully answered by the, you know, with communication with the town ahead of time, so that there was some idea, it's like, okay, we're pretty confident, we've had these discussions, all right, yeah, we're gonna go do the joint project, or you know what, we had these discussions, and maybe this isn't it's not gonna work out that way.
Yeah.
And it's okay, because the other relationship we've had with them for 45 years has worked really well.
It
And
did,
it's
yes,
to a mutual benefit.
it used to.
Our
yes.
numbers help them, their numbers help us, sometimes we work together and the plans complement each other, and it's been a very beneficial relationship.
Yeah,
It has
I
been.
agree.
So, but, you know, I'm not saying anything different is wrong, but, you know, so we're starting from a good spot. You know, I guess, you know, we have a good relationship and a good benefit. Is there something we can do to make it better?
Yes.
If the answer is no, well, then we're still in a good spot. If the answer is yes, it's
Exactly.
all in, let's do
Yeah.
what we can. That's what we're here for. We're not here for ourselves, we're not here for our jobs, we're here to provide services to our residents.
Mhm.
You know, it's,
Yeah.
we're here to, you know, get stuff done and keep this a nice place.
So what are you
to
saying?
live.
If there was $13 difference, to go with them?
$13,
Difference in terms of the cost.
it was $13 less?
Even if it was $13 more. And they provide, the only thing we're doing is we're, in that cost, we're keeping the system here in the village, okay? And maybe we're maintaining, we're running the transfer station. Everything else, we negotiate, but it turns out to be, let's say, $13 more.
That's
Is
with
that a reason not to go with them?
again, I don't think it's all dollars and cents. I think there's value decisions as well, so levels of service.
Yes.
You know, there's things like that, so you'd have to put it all in and weigh it all out, I think, and see, sometimes if it was, you know, $25 less to go with the town, but the service, this town, I think, does a great job, but let's say the service wasn't great,
Exactly.
then it's not really good for $25. If it's $25 more, but they had exceptional or superior service, maybe that's a better value.
Well, how is their service?
I don't think their service is bad. I don't think they don't camera sewer lines like we do.
No.
They don't do a lot of the same
Those
things
are all
that we
things you
do.
would negotiate.
Yeah. Yeah, those are things,
then
that, you
why
know,
don't
certainly you can
we-
have a discussion, but
Those are,
that'd be
that's
great to
the
have those
list of
discussions ahead of
things,
time.
that's the kind of things.
Yeah, but, you keep it in perspective too. Look at everywhere else in Monroe County. Churchville's 320, Henry Falls, I think it's 308.
I
Everybody
know.
else has switched to the county
Yep.
is way higher, because they're still
Yep.
paying for a collection system plus $30 a year plus $145 per thousand, I think,
Yeah.
and whatever their water usage is. So
Yeah.
really
We're
cheap,
really good.
really cheap. It's very efficient operation.
Yep.
So it's not a bad deal.
With Xerox it is.
Yeah, and without Xerox, there's zero protection by going to the town.
Yep.
None. It's like $3. There is zero, if you look at those numbers and you change the EDUs, because, like I tried to explain last time, there's so much of a core that we have that we would still be responsible for existing debt, we'd still be responsible for the new debt, our portion of that, we'd still be responsible for the collection system.
It's gonna cost us.
That's the vast majority, that's like, you know, 75, I don't know the numbers are paying, but 75% of what our total costs are. So when you take the operation and maintenance cost and the short-lived asset cost, those are the only two things that are percentages or prorated based on what the usage is. So those go down, but the other ones stay up, and it's over a smaller number of people. So there is zero protection. If Xerox went away completely, there's almost no benefit to going with the town at all.
track is still there.
It's going up no matter what, and it's going up a lot no matter what.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's kind of a, I don't think that's not much of an issue, because it's bad either way.
Bad either way, but I don't think that's necessarily going to go away.
No, I don't think so. I think Webster's a
But
great
even if
place
it
to live and
does,
to do
something's
business.
going to come in its place.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's only speculation.
Well, like you said, even if they did, if you look at the worst case scenario, if they did, there's no protection, so that can't be a reason to change, if there's no difference.
So,
So did we get anywhere? I don't think we did.
who do you, who are you gonna come up with? Who are you gonna give me names for in the next?
I don't know, Jake, you wanna sit down with me and you and I can go through and get a list of names? and-
Well, I don't know if names, I think that's for you guys, because but if you wanted me to help you come up with hey, here's a makeup of it, 2 business
No.
people, 2,
Well,
industry,
that's- Yeah,
if you're interested in that for an advisory or to do that stuff, it's, because I think those are the,
you know that system better than all of us.
well, those are
And you know the
the
people
stakeholders.
that would,
You get confused. It's not about the system, Jude. It's about all the other things that Jake's talking about.
But those are the stakeholders. I'd be happy to reach out to Xerox and see if they're
Yeah.
interested in being involved. Or just even meeting with you guys and just sharing whatever their concerns might be, or, I mean, they probably like just having one place to deal with, but, they'd be having as much testing if they're all going in one spot. But the numbers are,
No, this is a work session, sir.
so. Whatever you guys need, that's why I'm here. So, direct me.
Do you want another drink? Or do you- Information comes to us. And I kind of agree.
And Jude was right about, and so was Jake, about timeline. The more we think about it, it's not something that we get to make a decision on. So I take back what I said before. But it almost seems like the push is there by the town to make us make a decision. That's how I feel about it. But in my opinion, a committee is not going to do anything. You can get their input. You can get their input about, well, just like what we were talking about. I don't think a committee is a good idea because you're going to have people on that committee that are for or against. It's not going to work. I've been on too many committees that are like. We have the information, and we can get more information if that's what we need. And we can talk about it on this board. We don't need input from a committee.
My only thought, if I can, is getting stakeholders' views, because there's a lot of times when I look at something, and I might think, this is my experience, this is my expertise, this is my view of it, but I don't see it from their perspective, because I'm not in their same shoes. So if there's a way, short of a committee, to get stakeholders, and especially ones that are gonna be primarily impacted, Xerox, large commercial users or other commercial users, maybe large and medium or different sizes, and some residents, and maybe it's not a committee, maybe it's a group. Yeah,
You know how they feel.
Maplewood?
You know how the directors feel.
I'm not sure where I've never talked to him about it, and he didn't get any information from me.
Bill
So,
Laura?
exactly.
yeah, I talked to
Yeah,
Bill.
you go to Bill, from Bill.
Yeah. No, I talked to him about a week ago or a week and a half ago,
Yeah.
but he said he was just getting information from.
Second largest
He was only,
property
he
owner.
only
I know
had
how he
information
feels.
from one place when I talked to Bill. He didn't have our information.
Well, I think it's shared perspectives, because everybody's got their own unique perspective on things, so it's getting the information, because what's viewed from one perspective might be like, oh, okay, well, I.
The only information he had would have been what the engineer's report was, and again, both of
He
these
had
engineers.
the town's engineer's report. He did not have Clem's. I talked to him.
Jude, unless I'm missing something, Clem sat at that podium and agreed with what was on the screen. We can argue it all day if that's the best scenario, but they agreed that that information was the information in its worst case scenario at this point. So to say you only had one, he did not only have one because he's in agreement that that's the information. Did you hear that? Because I heard that. You heard it, don't shake your head both ways.
I heard that there was
No, I
two different
didn't hear
perspectives
that.
and two different views on it, and two different
Yeah.
ways they were looking at it.
Right, but then it came down
One
to
was from
it.
an asset management standpoint, one was from a pure
But
capital.
Clem sat at that podium and said at the end of the day that we redid it to reflect those numbers, and those are worst case scenario. And we shared our input together, he stated that.
And I ask again, if you go get a nice pickup truck and it's $57,000, you're never gonna borrow $140,000. And that's what we're looking at, is that we're comparing, it's a false comparison, it's a false narrative that started. And it's a false comparison because the village is never looking at it. So the choices in between extra $10 million going to town and a $14 million project with the village, that they've developed the numbers up to $14 million. We're never looking at a $14 million project.
There you go.
So we've created those, its narrative's been supplied to us as the option between these two choices. And it's a false choice because one of them's never a choice. Like I said, if you go to get a $57,000 pickup truck, you're not borrowing $140,000 because that'd be foolish. And that's the same scale, the same ratio as this project. The village was never looking at a $14 million or a $12 million or any other millions. It was looking at a $5.7 million project as part of this asset management. And we don't have plans for huge capital investments because we've continually made capital investments. And our plant runs really efficiently. So they're looking at end of life on certain processes and pieces of equipment that are there, which is the approach that we took, where this board took.
Okay.
You know, paid $60,000 for that second study. And that second study said, here's our recommendation. $5.7 million and then a 3.5 and a 2.5. And that's what the board, and that's what the initial study, but it was a different perspective than a capital investment was.
So you can decide what you want to do.
Personally, I agree with you that we really, we need a committee. Any other questions? Who are you gonna get? Who is not biased at all? Who's not gonna be on one side and just the other side?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was even talking to Billy Horth, because he was absolutely for the town. And I said, that's fine, I want you to hear all the information. So I want somebody like him there, who's an intelligent person. And he's been in business and lived here forever. Lived in the village and the town both. Those are the kind of people I want. That's a good perspective. And he's certainly not agreeing with me. But I want to hear it all, and I want him to hear everything. That's the kind of people I want in there. Maybe, you know, somebody from Xerox.
This cannot drag on until December. We will not let this drag on until December.
Why dragged on for 7 months that we didn't know about it?
They'll just say, we're going on, and we don't need you. So, that'll make it up, I suppose. That's what people, some people would like to have happening. Oh. So you want a committee. Who do you want on the committee? Let's do it now. Can't we do it now? So we have to drag that on for another 2 weeks for a committee.
Well, we could have like I said, Billy Horth. chamber forever, he lives in Penfield, so, you know, he's got the town and the village that he's worked with for years and years.
That's where the problem is. Who do we put on
Actually, that's the, in my opinion, the least part of our worries. It is, what is the criteria of a committee and what is your goal, your end goal and outcome of a committee? So that's what's important, and a timeline. You can't just have a committee without a timeline. So putting who's on it is the easy part in my mind.
So we would be saying to this committee, yay or nay?
Yeah, or nay.
What, I mean, would we, this committee says they're together, we get their input.
I know.
Then we make a decision
then
after.
They're gonna present it to us one way or the other, what decision.
Yeah, I guess, like I said, I'm very confused about a pre-committee, but if that's the goal of the board, I guess, is to,
I
you're
just
gonna give
wanted
them a
to
whole
have,
bunch of questions.
I didn't even want to call it a committee, I just
Right.
wanted to get a
So
group of
use
people
Jake's term,
together and have
an
discussions.
advisory board. But if our concerns about who's putting cameras in, who is gonna snowplow for us, all those things, that advisory committee can't answer how we would do that if we went joint. They're
I'd
not
like
gonna-
to know what they would want.
They're not gonna know that.
I just guess I want them to have the whole picture. And it's not just the money.
Yeah, I think we established that.
I keep on trying.
I think, other than the two engineering studies that we had, that Jake is probably the most knowledgeable person about all of this. There's no one that knows the sewer system like Jake does.
I don't think that's in question, sir. I would agree with that.
And so we listen to his advice.
He's given us a lot of information. If everybody's taken the time to read it, he has given us a lot of information. He has.
You're not gonna have that kind of information. We got numbers from the engineering study. Worst scenario, like you said.
Correct. Without knowing what you
Yeah.
can do,
And so-
what grants you could get, yeah, it's worst case scenario. Correct.
I think we should pay strict attention to what Jake says
I hope we can do it.
to help to make our decision.
But I appreciate that, and that vote of confidence, I guess, but I would also love to hear from people that have a different perspective.
Yes.
There's a very, very, very slight chance that I might be wrong. I'm willing to accept that. Tiny, but it might be there. But, seriously though, if, as you say, some of the business owners have a different perspective, I'd love to hear what their concerns are,
So
because
it's-
they have a different.
What would it be?
So if you wanna call these group of
There
people
is.
together, then do that and say, hey, this is, what your concerns are. That's not a committee and that's not them, hey, who's gonna snowplow for us? That doesn't, that's.
No, Bill said, when I talked to Billy Horth, he said, no, he said, it's gonna cost us more if we stay with the village, and that's it. And that was all, and he didn't, I said, well.
Well, that's, I don't know where he got that information. 'cause
Yeah,
it's
nobody
never, it's
told him
always
that.
been more
Oh,
expensive
yeah, they did.
to
Who
go.
did?
No, that's not true,
No.
Jude. It's always been, it is
Would not
going to
let me
be,
know.
even from Clem, when he sat there with us all in that room and Jake was with us, with his numbers, it is marginally, as that was the funny word
Yeah.
we used for that reason, it was marginally cheaper for the Village Standard Zone. That was always echoed from day one. It's always echoed, all of our conversations. If you did the original math Clem put, it was
Yeah.
$56 cheaper in 2019, 80-something dollars there at some point, and then an
I
average.
do not know
$108.
who Bill talked to, this is what he told me.
But that's, it was never, ever cheaper for us to go with the town. I've never heard that, and I never spoke that. I say it's marginally cheaper to stick with the village on the numbers that Clem provided this board after we met.
Peter.
And that's with how everything was today. That's with everything that is exactly how it is today. He couldn't forecast past that. He can forecast what the speedies permit is, even though an
Yeah.
investigation is
Yeah.
8 to 10 grand. He can't forecast if the DEC is gonna require more from us when they investigate our own speeds permit. He's not forecasting any of that stuff, just as it is today. It was marginally cheaper, and today would be $56 on the average cheaper, to stay in our home.
Mhm.
So that's was the true math that he originally gave us, I don't know.
And Peter provided a little bit different. Peter provided that we would be marginally.
Yeah, I didn't get that from him, I think,
Oh, the number I had that.
Mhm.
yeah, well, I didn't get that from him, and no, they're not. They've never been cheaper. It's- We've been marginally cheaper based on the numbers that Clark provided, so.
Yeah, fine. Not Baker.
No, even when he presented it here.
Right.
You know, what people forgot that why our number's a little higher, we have a lot of debt,
Mhm.
where they didn't, right? And then they were gonna take money out of their reserves to throw into the pot. You know, I think it was $1 million, you're gonna have to take it out. We
Yeah.
can't do that, you know, so there's some difference in that.
Oh, out of review,
Right.
right?
Right, so I agree, it's not gonna hurt to have some of these big players that you're naming voice their opinions.
Mhm.
But I still don't think that's a committee or an advisory board, because I think the things we're talking about, or a lot of them are outside the sewer system, and that's for this board and Jake to discuss, and then when we know those, then we can have an informational meeting if you want. But I just can't imagine that the guy from Xerox is gonna say, well, you can use Paul and, buy a cleaning lady, will help you plow, they're not gonna be able to do that.
No, it's not why we're doing this.
So I think committee's not good,
I'm not sure.
advisory, I don't know if that's even the right word, I don't know. It's
I
just-
just, you know,
Or just, maybe it's just a get together
Yeah, just
with, try to get this
That's
pool
what I
of people
want.
together and say,
Yes.
hey, let's,
That's all I wanted.
you know,
The
get your
big players or
perspective on it.
whatever,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts? Either way,
It'd be nice, like you say. right?
That's what I wanted, I didn't.
but I was hoping they would've came to that meeting, you know, some people came to the
Yeah.
meeting, but.
Yeah, and no.
Well, I talked to a few people that didn't even know about it, so.
Well, Jude, besides running down the street with a banner, we posted it and then reposted it, and the first thing is to say, hey, you know, we have to get our act together, is when we decided to talk about it the first meeting, we weren't even prepared to talk about it. So. So, again,
we're
sorry.
elected here to represent the people of the village.
Correct.
And so they trust us to provide the right decision.
Correct.
We don't need to go door to door and say yes or no. Because they really don't care where the sewage goes. As long as it works.
I think.
But they may care about some of the other
Away
things.
is the direction that they care about. They
There you
want their
go.
sewage to go away.
Away.
Yeah, away is good.
Away.
So again, and not to beat each other up, not to have people get angry, that's also not, you know, very conducive for us to move. We look at the data, we, you know, what Jake provides us, what the engineers provide us, and you make it your best decision you can. We're not all gonna agree, or all think what's right or wrong. Not all see eye to eye, and we just gotta make the best decision for this board now and in the future, and, you know, for the residents, not just right now in this term, it's how's it gonna look from here on out, you know? And there's a lot of what ifs on both sides, it's not one-sided, there's a lot of what ifs. Can Jake work something out with Ontario? He may not, right, but he can, you know, so can we do other things to bring in revenue?
Mhm.
It's all up in the air on both sides of a lot of unknowns.
And the projection out to 2040 or 2050 is total projection,
Right.
conjecture.
Does it have to be, and this is where Jake would know more of this, does it have to be 100% this way and 100% that way. If it is a joint venture, is there ways that both parties can benefit by doing some of these things we're talking about? Can we, you know what I mean? That would have a strong interest in me. And that's, again, I think what a committee would do is like, well, you know, why don't we do this, and why don't we do this, and we could bring in, you know what I mean? That's what I see the committee doing, is benefiting both parties. So his ideas, I don't think have to go to waste if we go one way. I think, let's figure out how we can do it where we all benefit, and that's all I'm saying. When there's more people paying the pot, and more creative ideas, you know, in theory, everyone's pocket should be taking less money out of it, right?
In theory.
And I'm not bringing up.
In theory.
Smarty, or smart, Alec, that's the word I was looking for, and it would start with an A. But, you know, I just think about the water, and
Yeah.
we were 2,000 customers, and now we're one of 174,000 customers.
Yeah.
We are not cheaper,
Way more
and
cheap.
we were way less cheaper than we were before.
But, as you know, we didn't run, I got this from a wise man, we didn't run on saying we are gonna make village water cheaper.
Oh, no.
We ran on better quality water.
Where is it?
And except for Mr. Walters, who has told us in millions of meetings what the water does to him.
No,
the
I
rest
do
of
not
us,
like the water.
my hot water tank, my faucets, and a lot of other things like the water. So regardless,
Right, that's water under the bridge, but I'm saying, you know, in theory, you brought up in theory
Yeah.
that if more
Yeah.
people are paying, it should be cheaper, and we can see that didn't bear out just very recently.
right, that's why I had to jump to my defense and say that we didn't say we were gonna make it cheaper.
Knock on wood, I have 2 water heaters in my house that were 14 years old and 16-year-old, and
Yeah.
My stuff got killed.
they're still fine.
But I
Yeah,
got
mine
mine
still
soft.
do, 15.
My last one went 21 years.
Yeah.
I guarantee this one won't.
All right,
Or whatever.
so what happens next, Jude?
Well, Jake and I'll get together then. And figure out what we're gonna do.
Like I said, I can try to reach out to Xerox tomorrow, and, or some of the other business owners that you guys mentioned, and
And
see.
can they sit here in a room with a full board? I don't know if that works, right? Is there some sort of law around that or no? I'm looking at you out there now, we can
Peter,
just talk in an open meeting, or are we gonna call it, does it have to be a meeting night?
But it can be, it doesn't have to be at night.
But, I mean, some people could meet with them ahead of time to give them information
yeah,
and get them.
I'd rather
find
have
out
them
their
have the
questions or something.
information.
It'd be ideal if you could just talk.
I know it, but we could just talk.
It's like having a forum. That's actually the contemporary term for it.
Forum,
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the modern term for what you're talking about in that respect.
Mhm.
And yes, it's completely fine because you're having a meeting, you're just terming it you're just giving it a different name.
Cause I wanna hear more from them and not us tell them what, because
Exactly.
that's also bias. So I
Yeah.
want them to say, hey, this is what I would be concerned about, and here's
Yeah,
why.
that's what I
And
want
are
to do.
they really going to divulge some of that information? Do they even know whether they would still be here?
The problem is, right,
Usage is and all
the
that
problem
kind
is
of
after we meet with them, we still may not get to the answers of who's picking up our twigs and who's doing the additional plowing, and we're gonna still be up here with those same questions
Exactly.
that this board still has to figure out. I agree with Jake that, let's get their opinion on the sewer part. This other stuff, we have to talk about, not them. And if Jake sits here and tells us, no, I need 2 guys and this is why, well, we have him in that position for a reason, right? We believe in and trust in what he's doing. So if he says it's 2 guys, we have to know, we gotta think about, all right, if it's 2 guys, what's that gonna look like? What's that gonna cost?
You're gonna have to have one.
Right.
So whether you have 2, that would be, because we do have a third one, DPW.
But if there's one of them's, I think a lot of people on vacation sometimes, and I don't know if we can plan pump station outages. We could.
No,
That'd be
I-
ideal,
I
like
said-
during the day.
I just said.
More cross-training, Jake, you're gonna have to leave your office.
Right, no, we've got, you know, we've got guys, but the institutional knowledge, like I said, is very
Exactly.
important and it saves money, you know?
Big time.
Okay.
We have three of them are gonna stay with the whole system. You're not gonna have three and have a joint.
Are you ready?
Mhm.
Yep. All right, and I'd like to see the names,
I would too.
so. And maybe I'll contribute some. but they-
All right, again, guys, I think, I sound like a broken record, I'm sorry, but don't worry about the names right now.
What,
If you're,
committee?
yeah, well, if you're doing it, if you're calling it a committee, then don't worry about the names. Think about the meat of the committee.
Yes.
And the timelines and
A
all those
forum.
things. But if we're not calling it that, and you're just having a forum conversation, then that, or you're having a session for them to express what their thoughts and concerns would be. It's not us to tell them, hey, this or that, because we're not.
Well, I think we need to share some of the information with them, yeah. I don't know how much they know. Do they have all the numbers?
No, they got hearsay.
I'm
Exactly.
not sure, but did that ever happen on Facebook yet, or whatever he was doing? Wasn't Clem was gonna speak to those numbers,
Yeah,
and they were gonna put it on our
Yeah, Adam
webpage.
was gonna contact him. And
So that you'll have that documentation to utilize
answer
as
questions.
at
well,
least.
yeah, I like people having the information before they come to me. The way I always set up my
Right.
meetings before.
Right, but if you make it informational, and it's, because we don't, just, I
Yeah.
guess we said it 13 times up here, that it's not just about the money. That they're not gonna have those, those questions, so.
I think what they're, the biggest question they have is, how much money is it gonna cost me 10 years from
Now, short
now?
term.
And you have Chambry and,
Right.
and those guys. How much is it gonna cost me? How much of an increase is it gonna be other than normal? Is
And
it-
will this
Is the
continue
plant
to
still
stay
running the way it
down?
always did? What's my cost?
Well,
And what's
the
my cost
service?
gonna be? And the service is a
It's
joke.
extremely
Of course.
important, especially for Chamber.
We're talking about this committee, this pretty committee, I just brought it up.
They wanna know if we're gonna lose services, how much it's gonna cost one way or the
Yeah,
other.
but no, we're talking about.
No,
the committee.
It's a simple question and it's
Committee
right there.
before-
Yeah.
That's what they wanna know. They're not gonna ask about
No.
clarifiers and all the rest of
No,
this stuff in
they're
the
not.
sewage plant. They don't care about that. They care about how much it's gonna cost and what's the service.
And they get your say.
Yeah.
It's a simple question. Those are the questions, I'm sure.
And what's the committee
Are
gonna
we
do?
done?
I'm sure nobody knows.
Anything else? All right, 8:15, ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're gonna start tomorrow, and I'd like to know who the names are.
He's the.
Jake and I are, yeah, sir.
Thank you.
Are we good?